So have you ever experienced a storm in your life? We know that that gospel story is about a storm caused by the weather. We also know that story, as it was proclaimed by Mark to be passed on, was to help us to look in an even deeper way at the storms within us that we can experience because of any number of things that happen in the path of life. 42 years ago, I met a couple that touched my life deeply, and this is part of their story, but their story is our story. And their names were Tom and Joni. And just wonderful coming together, just the goodness, the love of both of them. And in fact, my mom and I got very close to them that one time Tom drove a van with Joni and my mom and me. We went all out west, all over for 2 weeks. My mom was happy that he was driving. But in that, just the goodness, the joy, the laughter, and then a headwind. And the situation was this, that Joni, after she got back, she was only almost 30 at that age, she received the news that she had breast cancer. And that was devastating. And she received it. I remember I was there at part of that day. She got the news in the hospital that not only that she had the breast cancer, but it was very serious. And more than likely, they would do everything they could, but not know how long it would be. And the doctor shared with her on Thanksgiving Day. And I remember that kind of, did something to Thanksgiving. Although even there, I was with them later in the day. We gave thanks for faith, for friendship, but still tears and fear and anxiety, understandably. And so, obviously, stayed in touch with both of them and their goodness and their faith and their struggles in faith. And I know that as Joni went through that, initially devastated, difficult to hear, feeling in some way. Because I remember we prayed when she first heard the news and, okay, maybe it'll be okay. We prayed and we asked God to help her and be with her. And she, basically, when we heard it, it was like in that reading today, we didn't use that language. Lord, you're asleep in a boat. You're supposed to be here helping us through this, giving Joni and Tom the inner strength and faith. And that did come about, Joni especially. Was such a positive person, but not right away. And then, as it went on, and she knew, okay, and they both said, and this is faith for all of us, you can only really take life one day at a time. And in that moment, in each of those moments, they were precious even before that happened, but we all need to remember that every day is precious. This is the day we have to love. This is the day we have to have some sense of God's presence. This is the day to appreciate whatever is in our day, to look for that and center in that. Joni did that a lot. And she was able, after the devastating news, took a while, to come back to a deeper inner peace and serenity. And I remember one of the things that she did that helped her, and it was typically her, because Joni was always doing for others, that when she lost her hair, she was very creative. She made a turban for her hair. Then, of course, what did she decide to do? She made many more turbans and gave them out to people at the hospital who were with her and even to other people because she wanted to help them. And it was striking because in doing that, even Joni said it, she came to an even deeper sense of vitality and peace. And I bring that up because in the reading today, from Corinthians, Paul is writing this. Jesus indeed died for all. Here's the point. So that those who live might no longer live for themselves, but for the Lord. And that was Joni. When we live for ourselves, and we're human, that happens. That's where we can even be more preoccupied and fearful and negative. The secret in all of that is, and it's not easy to do, they didn't do it right away, is how we get out of ourselves and lose ourselves in caring for others and making a difference in their life, which for Joni, that meant a lot. She still had life to live. She still had opportunities to give, to help other people, and she did. And there was that sense that made such a difference. So many people touched by what she did. She was, you may have heard the expression, a wounded healer. She was wounded by her own illness, but out of that, she had such great empathy for other people and what they were going through, whatever their illness. And out of that, she was a healer just by her loving presence and her peace. Touched us all, including me. This was 40 years ago. I still emotionally connect with that. And then, of course, it was over a 3-year period, and near the last few months of that period, she did take a turn for the worse. She became more frail. She was bedridden a lot of the times at Akron General, and would go and visit her and Tom there. And I remember that when it was kind of clear, and Joni knew it, being positive, but you know, it looks like it's going to go the way of this cancer is going to take her. But even there, as we talked and prayed, and this was Joni, even before the illness, she had that sense, okay, I don't want this. You know, I've only been married to Tom for 4 or 5 years, but I remember her even saying, but those 4 and 5 years were a gift. That was her mindset, her faith. And she said, as we talked and prayed, and we talked about this cancer and all of that, and she was able to say, as we talked back and forth, cancer is not what will have the final say. She mentioned, she believed, and we're called to believe, aren't we? Trusted. And she trusted, the Lord will see me through this, even if it takes me to everlasting life. Which, remember, that's responsorial psalm. It's give thanks for this God of everlasting life. That, are we going to grieve and be sorry and miss? Of course we are. At the same time, it was amazing to watch her have that sense, no. The greatest reality, and she lived this, was love. And love is going to see me through. Her love for Tom, for other people, and her believing in God's love for her that would be with her. And that was striking. And then I remember a few days later seeing her in the hospital, and we prayed together. She was getting weaker, but she could still hear and understand. And it's good, especially in those times, to be open and to share in a heart-to-heart kind of way, and we did. But it was very poignant for me as I left her, but I can remember the day of her death. It was August 10th, 1985, because that night, Tom called to say she had passed. And I remember the date because it was my 20-year high school reunion from North of 1965. And we had a big gathering. And I remembered when I left Joni that day, I said, oh, hey, I'll be back tomorrow, it'll be okay. But when then I got that news, sure, it was difficult. I got to the hospital right away because she had only passed a short time before, and Tom was there and wanted to be with him, and we prayed, and we gave her to God. Through the tears, both of us. And her I got to watch myself, her great love. And so, yeah, I'll remember that day. And was that a storm? Do all of us have storms? Some of them are greater, some of them, the storm within us. When we're anxious, when we're fearful, when we're wondering what's going to come of all of this. That's that storm when Joni first heard the news. But through it, believing that the Lord doesn't always prevent the storms, doesn't always have them turn out the way we want them to, but she had that sense Jesus was the one with her and would always be with her and for her. And she conveyed that to others that bolstered our faith. So, all of us can probably a story. It may be something we've gone through and say, okay, God, you even brought me through this. Maybe I didn't think you would. Or it may be somebody else that inspired you that you haven't thought about. She died 39 years ago, and I can remember it as though it was today. These tears are tears of love and goodness, because I get an opportunity as a priest to meet many people like that. And she will be one I will never forget. So take that quiet moment in the midst of even the tears and the pain we know love is the ultimate reality, and with God, love is forever. Again, take that quiet moment.